In a firearms academy in Onalaska, Seattle, the development team behind the action-fueled SOCOM series are preparing to take part in a grueling team exercise. During the next 12 hours, the guys from Zipper Interactive, who are usually handling joypads, not weaponry, will be given a taste of intense military training, courtesy of ex-U.S. Navy SEAL Rob Roy and his Special Operations Training Group.
Pistol! Pistol! Do it again, right now. Do it again. Go. Whole thing. Do it now. Up. Up.
We are going to put them through their paces. We are really going to challenge their little fingers and put weapons in their hands, let them see what it really is like. Normally they press R1 and L2. Today they're going to press the finger of a real gun and see how they feel with that.
SOCOM to me is, one of the first blends between, realistic military simulation and the gaming world.
Off! Double tap!
SOCOM is a tactical team-based shooter. It's all about the leadership and coordination with the other squad mates.
Up!
I think SOCOM is the tactical action game for the mainstream audience. It's realistic enough for the hardcore enthusiast to enjoy, and yet it's easy enough and action-packed enough for the casual gamer.
Every version of SOCOM on the PS2 has seen the game grow and develop into the ultimate Navy SEAL experience.
The original SOCOM started out as a game as a single-player game primarily, and we were able to add in the multiplayer aspect, 16-player game, and quickly realized how exciting and fun that was to play. Its progression, I guess, into SOCOM 2 addressed a lot of the technical issues and continued to add more additional maps for everybody to play on. And finally, SOCOM 3, we crossed a couple of technical hurdles and managed to get 32 players in the game simultaneously, as well as being able to handle wide, vast areas to play in.
Taking the SOCOM phenomenon onto the PSP gave the developers an exciting new challenge, ensuring none of the action was lost by moving to a handheld console.
I'm very proud of the fact that Fireteam Bravo has almost everything that SOCOM 3 has, just in a tiny package. And really the experience when you go in is really just the same. There's a lot of tactics and camaraderie, and the missions are all designed, to reflect the SOCOM environments and our attention to detail. Initially we thought maybe we'd have 4 or 6 players in there. That graduated to 6 to 8, and that actually graduated to 16, which is the actual maximum the PSP can handle. And not only that, but we actually got the headsets in. It's amazing to me, and I pick up my own PSP at home and I play online and I play some rounds. It's just, I can't believe that I'm playing SOCOM on a device that small and portable.
One of the biggest talking points of SOCOM Fireteam Bravo was the exciting new world offered by Crosstalk.
Crosstalk is a system where literally you take your PSP, you hook it up to your PS2 with a serial cable that you normally use to hook your PSP up to a PC. And basically, as you progress through both games, we're taking track of little flags as you do things. You might find a weapons cache, you might take a picture of a boat in Fireteam Bravo, and those have repercussions on each game. So basically, as you play through, and some of them are discrete objectives, and some of them are very obvious. If you do this, you'll be notified that now in SOCOM 3, a certain enemy type has less powerful weapons, that sort of thing. And actually, there's around 69 or so of those crosstalk links throughout both games.
Well, both games take place in similar areas of operation. It's basically 2 different tactical teams working in parallel. And so they'd be going up against similar enemies, taking on maybe somewhat related objectives. If a SEAL in SOCOM 3, for example, went above and beyond the call of duty and, say, destroyed some extra enemies, like maybe a tank, well, when they connect the 2 systems and download that data, those enemies or that vehicle may not be in the other game because your helper team basically already took care of them.
So we made sure that a lot of the Fireteam Bravo missions would enhance the SOCOM 3 missions or explain them a little bit better, that there would be a lot of tie-ins. And so what we did is we really sat down. Kobe, who's our writer, was the writer on both projects, and so obviously he knew exactly what was happening in SOCOM 3, and so he was able to give us a big framework, and we were able to identify parts of the story that would link into Fireteam Bravo really well. The characters as well, we chose specific characters from SOCOM 3 that we wanted to bring into Fireteam Bravo, and a lot of the ways it was kind of cool because we were able to take secondary characters from SOCOM 3 that we thought were cool and give them much more attention in our game, which I think is pretty fun.
While the PS2 and PSP versions of SOCOM share many strengths, each game still retains its own distinct flavor.
SOCOM 3 and Fireteam Bravo are very similar in a lot of ways, but they definitely have their own unique qualities and let them stand on their own. You know, SOCOM 3 has vehicles, that was one of the new additions, has 4 teammates. The PSP had to get a little more, you know, down and personal on that platform. So we really tried to focus on, you know, a single teammate.
Well, working with the PSP is challenging, especially when you're dealing with a game that has done so well on the PS2. But then you take it to the PSP, which obviously has some bigger limitations. It has 1 analog stick where the PS2 had 2. There's fewer buttons. Obviously, there's slightly less graphical power to it. But we realized that rather than just try and boil down SOCOM 2 onto the PSP, that we really needed to embrace what the PSP could do well. So we did things like we added a target lock system that would allow the players to use a single analog stick. Other things that we did, we added in an instant action mode, because we knew that as a portable device, the PSP players would want something that they could sort of jump in and play a 10 or 15-minute mission. What we did is we tried to design conservatively, and we tried to make every level as dense as possible, and then focus a lot on getting the online up to speed with what SOCOM 3 is.
A lot of the big features that we had on SOCOM 3 translated over to Fireteam Bravo pretty well, especially the community features, going online to the message boards, having player mail, a lot of the clan functionality. Some of it's identical in the 2 titles in that they have this core SOCOM community that both titles share.
In the end, what we had is a product which is a lot more like a console game, but only on the PSP, which is the size of an envelope.
The SOCOM team's quest to ensure that every new version of the franchise is bigger and better created an exciting and dynamic development process.
We tried to put a whole bunch of new content into the game. We really tried to add a bunch of new features, and the main challenge associated with that was just the amount of time it took to implement those features and make sure that they integrated themselves well with the game. And with additions like vehicles, swimming, customizable weapons, a whole new user interface, bigger levels, I mean the list goes on, and there's just a whole bunch of key new things that really make the game much more enjoyable as opposed to the predecessors.
For the PSP, some of the challenges we faced, infrastructure, going online with your PSP. We were trying to support more people than had ever been on the PSP online at one time. So we've got 16 players online, and we've also got ad hoc, which means you can play with somebody at the bus stop or at your dorm.
In the beginning, we kind of built areas of the world that were in one central kind of island location. We've got the technology now in SOCOM 3 to span multiple islands, and that's a streaming technology that Zipper had come up with that kind of allowed us to create totally different looks within the same mission. So you could go from places like a complete desert environment to coming into a village and then going back into the desert and then back into something like a Moroccan market, all in the same mission. So that's kind of a new challenge for us to do.
In a crowded genre, there's no doubt SOCOM stands head and shoulders above the rest.
The thing that really sets SOCOM 3 apart from the competition is that it appeals to a wide, broad audience. I've seen other tactical games out there that maybe aren't very realistic, and therefore it's a more casual game. And then maybe other games where they're so realistic, it's like you're gonna go hide in a bush for 4 hours and maybe you get to fight one bad guy or something. So I think SOCOM does a great job of offering choices to the player and letting them play the game how they want to. If they want to be tactical and hardcore, we let them do that. If they want to be a little more run and gun, they'll have a tougher time beating the game, but they can do that as well. So I think that's one of the really great things that sets the game apart. Another thing is I think we have a great equal emphasis on both single player and multiplayer. Particularly in this latest game, we tried to add a bunch of new single player features. So I think it's almost like you're getting two complete games. I know I've played in other games out there where the game really shines in one area or the other, and I think SOCOM 3, we really tried to bring the single player up to the multiplayer level of gameplay.
As well as sharing strengths, the two titles also feature exciting contrasts.
There are some big differences, and one of the things that's actually a major change is how the camera is with the character. Traditionally, SOCOM games on the PS2 have had the camera right over the character. And what we decided to do was, because the PSP has this very wide, luscious cinematic screen, is that we would put the camera over the shoulder of the character and have the character off to the side. And that allowed us to bring the camera into the character and actually see him a little bit more on screen, while also allowing a clear field of view. Really, the large-scale systems that are different is, one of them is the target lock. That affects the game across the board. And we were really nervous about target lock. I mean, as we designed the game, in the back of our minds, we were constantly thinking, is this going to make the game too easy? What we decided to do was make a target lock that would allow the player to indirectly aim at what he was looking at by his stance, by his movement, or the kind of weapon he had, so that the player had lots of options to be able to refine his aim even though he was locked onto a target. And I think what that meant is finally we had a system that allowed us to use that single analog stick, but really it wasn't a cheap system and it didn't make the game too arcadey. There's still a lot of tactics and play left in the system. And that's something that we had to do for PSP, but it worked out really well for us.